Hello, friends, and welcome to Career Talk. In Career Talk, we invite various agilists to share their valuable experience with all of us. And today, we have Hani Kumar with us. She's having 10 years of total IT experience, and from last 4 years, she's working as a Scrum Master. And friends, now she is holding 5 offer letters. Friends, before we move on, if you are new to this channel, please do subscribe and don't forget to hit like button. Your one like is a big motivation for all of us. So let's welcome Hani. Hi, Hani, and thanks for giving your time today.
Hi, Sunan. Thank you for this warm welcome. It's great to have. It's great to be in Career Talks at Career Talks. Hi.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so if you allow, friends, so all these questions which we have gathered today are part of Hani's interviews, and we have just taken few important questions. And yeah, today Hani is going to help us. So, Hani, shall we start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the very first question is, I think it's most asked question, a day in the life of a Scrum Master. So, what do you do whole day, Hani?
Yeah. Sunan, so not every day in the Scrum Master's life is same. So there are days when there is no major sprint activities planned, as in a sprint retrospective or sprint review, and there is no demo calls on those days. And there are days when you have the planning, you have meeting, ad hoc meetings, execution of the software deliverable items. So basically, I start my day by arriving at the office a little early from my other software development team members. Then I check the dashboard so as to understand what my team is doing and get a clear picture on that. Then we have the daily stand-up call where my team discusses about what did they do yesterday, what they will do today, and is there anything standing in their way. So in that case, is I am just the facilitator in case if there is no major impediments which they are not able to resolve. So if there is an impediment which arises and they are not able to resolve, um, I will basically take it in the other call. In other call we can basically have, and then we'll discuss about that. I will also help PO in order to extract the stories and from the epic, so that we are well prepared in case of sprint planning. In case if there is a new joinee, in case if there is a new developer, I will ask them to go through the agile engineering practices, as well as I'll coach them for the agile engineering practices. There are a bit of assessment that needs to be done in the initial stage, so I'll ask them to do that. And I will make sure that I teach them or coach them about the best practices of the TDD. And in case if there is a sprint retrospective coming on, I will select the activity for the sprint retrospective which needs to be done, and I will take out the focus points and I will work on them. And there would be meetings with the PO in case there are prioritized stories in the backlog and that needs to be estimated. So basically, these are the part of the day which need to be done on the days when there is no sprint retrospective. On the days when there is a sprint retrospective, I will very well prepare ahead of sprint retrospective of what points to discuss, and if there is any team building activity that needs to be inculcated in the sprint retrospective meeting, I will make sure I'll do them. And for the demo meetings, I along with the product owner will invite all the stakeholders, and then be prepared with my team for giving the demo to the stakeholders and the business people. So this is how different days in the life of a scrum master looks like.
Okay, thanks for that, Hani. Okay, so the next one is with respect to a relative and an absolute estimation. So, what's the difference between these two?
So basically, when we talk about the relative estimation and the absolute estimation, and why do we do relative estimation in Agile? Uh, so basically, as we always know that Agile is or Scrum is basically for complex products where not much is known about the project. So in that case, doing the exact or the absolute estimation is not possible. So in that case, we will be doing relative estimation. For an example, we will compare two user stories, and we will define the amount of complexity and the amount of work that needs to be invested in those user story. For an example, so like we have 10 different 10 different fruits on a table. We will identify what those fruits, how easy is them, how easy for us is to consume those fruit. For an example, a strawberry can be much easier than a banana to be consumed. So that is how we will estimate those fruits as per the accessibility to eat them. So that is how I will assign them. And one major uh, series that we follow is Fibonacci series, that is used for relative estimation here. For an example, a strawberry is much easier to consume. So we might give one story point, which is the effort of which is the effort unit that we use during Scrum, and the other, for example, a banana will be 2 story points. That means it is a little more difficult to consume banana than a strawberry. So that is how we will estimate.
Okay, thanks for that, Mani. Okay, so next one is interesting. Could you please explain what is MVP and MMF, minimum marketable feature?
Okay, so MVP is a minimum viable product. It is the version of the product which has just the enough features that needs to be used by the early customers, and then they can provide feedback for future development activities. For an example, I'll give an example here. For an example, I'm starting with my cake business. So here I will make a small cupcake and give it to my neighbors, to my other family members, just to taste it and to get to know how that cupcake tastes. Based on their inputs, I will now basically put them into production, which is like making a bigger cake and then selling it off. That is where minimum marketable product has come into picture. It is basically the next practical step after MVP in the software development process, where we majorly focus on the functionality that the customer needs or the user needs. So this is where the user requirement would come into picture. These are the details that needs to be addressed as per the customer.
Okay, so MVP and then it will move to MMF, right?
MMP, yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about responsibility of a Scrum team. We talked about Scrum Master and Product Owner, but what
Yeah.
about Scrum team? What do you think the responsibility of a Scrum team as a whole?
So one major responsibility is on the Scrum team is to have a shared common goal. We are working towards one product, and we should have one goal. We should have a shared common goal for that one product. It's important that the entire team on together is hold accountable for the delivery of that shippable product. Here, it is important that my team understands that they are self-sufficient. They break down their requirements. They make sure that they create tasks, estimate it, distribute between themselves, and then perform the other perform the other Scrum ceremonies. It could be daily sprint, it could be sprint retrospective, sprint review meetings, and make sure that this sprint, at the end of the sprint, there is a potentially shippable functionality is delivered. They should also be held accountable, or they're also responsible for updating the status and the efforts of their task which they own on the dashboard, so that we can see it and we can track the progress through the sprint burn down diagram.
Okay.
Yeah. If anything you want to add here, you can add, Sunat, if I'm missing anything.
No, that's okay. So let's talk about Tuckman model. Are you aware about it? What's the
Yes.
importance of?
Yeah. So basically, a Tuckman model of group development is a model that is basically used to track the team's maturity and ability. in establishing the relationship and making sure that they have smooth execution of the project. So 5 stages which Tuckman model of group development has is forming. Here, a new team is formed. There is no goals, there are no collaborations. They do not know in themselves that they will work together, and they are very anxious at the starting. It is a new project, it's a new team which has been formed. Storming here, people start working with themselves. They start pushing their boundaries. There can be conflicts that is happening, there can be challenges, there can be issues that is that should be checked, but they are still struggling and storming at this stage. So here there is difficulty, there is challenges in team management, there is challenges in setting goals for the team. So here, after they basically work on themselves and move to the norming phase, where they will resolve their differences, they will start working together. They will have their challenges, but they will start speaking to themselves and basically appreciate each other's work here, and make sure that they work smoothly in the norming stage. Here the next step comes, which is the performing, where the team is in full flow and it is performing at its full potential. They are working good, and a team here is likely to achieve its goal efficiently. Now everything is going smoothly, they are quite matured enough in this stage. And the next part comes is adjourning, where the project has already come to an end, and either the people have been redeployed, or um, the project has already shut down. So here the permanent teams are basically disabled in the adjourning phase. So these are the 5 stages here.
Yeah, perfectly said. Okay, so the next one is what's the difference between a sprint backlog and a product backlog?
So product backlog is the requirement which the product owner comes up in the starting of the sprint, and based on those product requirement, those features, we basically have user stories present in them, and we have a definition of ready in picture, where we move a few of the prioritized product backlog items into the sprint backlog. Product backlog item will have its own goal, whereas the sprint backlog item will have the sprint backlog will have the sprint goal into picture. So here the sprint backlog would be the user stories which are to be picked in the sprint.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so as a Scrum Master, what different preparation you did for the sprint planning?
Okay, here, okay, as a Scrum Master, so basically I have to make sure that my team is self-sufficient. I have to make sure that we are ready with the product backlog that is refined, and I will do the capacity planning first. I will check the team's availability, and I will make sure the agenda for the meeting is set. So I'll create and distribute the meeting agenda. I will first make sure that the sprint planning meeting is time boxed, and I'll establish a start and time for the meeting. I will make sure that the product owner is also ready with the objective of the sprint. What user items is he proposing for the next sprint is very important. So I'll basically make sure that my team's capacity is well curated, and I'll make sure that my product owner is ready with the user story, the prioritized user story, and has a goal in his mind.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, let's move on to the next question, and that is on a scope creep. So what is the scope creep, first of all?
Okay.
And yeah, what are the challenges which you will face if that is going to happen frequently?
So, okay. So basically, scope creep is also known as requirement creep, or even a feature creep. like we have started with a few project requirements in the start of the project, and the project requirements tend to increase as the project lifestyle continues. So for an example, we started with only 3 requirements in the start, and later on, when, as we know that it is a complex feature that we are developing, and it can lead to multiple requirements after some time. So a business can come with a few requirements in the start, and that after a certain time business thinks, I know with this there are multiple other requirements that has been associated. So here the deliverables increases, and that can increase a lot of other risk as well. That can increase budget risk, that can increase the strategic risk. For an example, uh, a business can come up with a certain budget for a few requirements that he wants to be developed at the start of the uh, project. But now during the project, the business understands and realizes that there are a few other requirements that also needs to be integrated along with the previous requirements which was proposed. So that will increase the budget and the finance of the project. And here the strategic risk will also come into picture, where the strategy of how the execution was there would be changed now as per the new requirements added.
Okay, let's move on. Can you share a couple of difference between the old and the new Scrum Guide 2020?
Um, First, it was there are about 8 differences between the old and the new Scrum Guide. No, about 6 differences, I believe. There is no more development teams. Now it is called the developers. Uh, Now, previously it was roles. Now the roles are replaced by accountabilities. We are now no more servant leaders. It's true leaders. We lead the team. And what I remember, the Scrum Guide is now more compact, which is about 14 pages. Um, the other one which I remember is sprint planning was previously on what and how has things to be implemented. Now it is why. We question why, what, and how. So yeah, these are the changes in the old and the new Scrum Guide.
Yeah. Okay, the next question is again most asked. As a Scrum Master, how you work with the conflict in the team?
Yes. So there are, as Scrum Master, major of the conflicts are with the people. We work with the people, and major conflicts that we encounter is with the people as only. So here, it could be between the Scrum Master and the product owner. It could be between 2 developers in the software development team. It could be among a product owner and the team also. So I'll name a few. I'll name a few here. I'll one being with the junior and the senior developer. So this senior developer was working in the project since quite some time, and the junior developer came just right now, and we have a set code standards that need to be followed, and there is code review very frequently, so that we meet those code standards. So this senior developer, um, basically we tagged a buddy along with the junior developer, and he found out that the code standards are not met by the senior developer. So, and they both had a conflict in between. As a Scrum Master, I tried understanding what is the issue first, and had a one-to-one meeting with both of them. I made sure that they talk about their problems, and after talking, they understood that the senior team. I asked the senior team member to basically put his expertise into picture and coach him in a polite way, where the junior team member would understand it, and it would take a bit of time for him to adapt to the new changes. Whereas I also appreciated the senior team member. A little bit of appreciation here. does a lot of help, and I appreciated the junior team member also, and I told him that he needs to follow, as the other person is quite matured, he needs to make sure that he follows the standard that we have inculcated in the project. So both of them resolved their differences and worked perfectly fine. There was an incident where there was an incident where I had a conflict with a team member. So during the there was a new developer who comes into picture, and this developer we did a skill check on this developer, and we found out that he still needs some time to basically hone his skills. So in that case, I asked him to be a part of testing activities, and later when he grooms himself and make sure that he understands, he tags along with the developers and understand the code and understand the development process, and then we can move him to the development end, because he was more interested in the development activities. So here he also agreed on it, and when I spoke to the team, my team also thought that he is still not fit to do the development activities still, and he needs some time to basically work on his development strategies. And here I spoke to the team member, and I've told him that after 2 months we can again do a skill check, and after that we can move him to a development project, which he agreed on. So a little bit of negotiation with the team members can help to resolve the conflicts.
Great, great examples. Okay. Okay, this is again a little tricky, and nowadays it's been asked a lot of time. So, which Scrum event, according to you, is important? And if I'm going to ask you which one Scrum event you have to skip, will be which Scrum event?
As per me, all these Scrum events are equally important. All these Scrum ceremonies or events are equally important. We should not be skipping any of the events, be it DSM, be it the sprint retrospective, be it the sprint review meeting. If the team is matured, and they can just update their task on the DSM call, and if there's nothing to be discussed and there's no more impediments, they can just shorten the DSM call, but there is no other event that can be skipped.
And why? Like if I'm have to forcefully ask you which one event you have to.
No event should be skipped, Sunand. As per me, it is my responsibility as a Scrum Master to coach and tell them to attend all the events, facilitate. I'm a facilitator in all those events, and I need to make sure that I coach them that they should be attending all the events.
Okay, so friends, this is the reason it's a tricky, because most of the time interviewer are going to force you that no, you have to tell us one event which you have to skip, right? So the answer is we cannot skip any of the Scrum event. There is a purpose of each and every Scrum event, and that's the reason those events are there, right? So if as a Scrum Master, if you are not able to communicate properly to your team, to your manager, to your client, they will ask you in various forms the same question, right? So you have to be smart enough. Don't be deviate from your statement. Okay, stick to that and give proper reason, right? So that's the thing. Okay, good. Okay, let's move on to the matrices. Yeah, again, most asked question. So, Honey, please let us know what are the different matrices which you know and the purpose, and yeah, everything about matrices.
So a very few matrices that is used in every organization, every project is velocity, the burn down chart, uh, relative estimation variance, scope variance matrix, and the product backlog health. So basically, these are the metrics which are used in my organization uh, for my ongoing project. So velocity is used to track the amount of work done during the sprint. So it is basically, we take the average velocity in the picture, and we can basically project the velocity in the further coming iterations of the sprint. Uh, the burn down chart, it basically lets you know how much of work is done and how much of work is remaining during this sprint. So it tracks between the story point, and as the sprint progresses, on the y-axis, it's the days how the sprint progresses, and on the y-axis, it is how the number of story points, which is the basically effort that we take into picture. And then there is scope changes in between, how many scope has been added in the scope change variation matrix, where we identify how many scope we have added and how much has been removed. We basically have the REG status, where we set a certain timeline, like for example, how much of scope can be projected. For an example, red can be if we have moved more than three scope changes in a project, we mark it as red. And if we have less than three, we determine the status for every red, amber, and green, and then based on that we project the matrix. And based on the velocity, we project the product backlog health matrix.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. So what's the difference between a risk and an issue? And if you can share a couple of risks from your project, that will be great.
Yes. So basically, a risk is basically an event which may or may not happen during the project. A risk can be having any impact on the progress towards the project. It could be leading to a positive or a negative change. A few of the risks that can come into picture here is performance risk. The overall performance of the team can risk the project's impact. The other one can be, which I've already mentioned, it could be the financial risk as well as the strategic risk. In the financial risk, as I said, that due to the scope creep, there could be a rising cost. There would be a requirement for the additional resources. And when there is difficulty in the sales, then there could be a low sales risk. Strategic risks are basically during the planning and the use of technology during the execution of the project. So if there is any project dependency which is causing those strategic risk, that is that can impact the strategic risk. And the other one is basically which has already impacted is, as in which has already happened, is basically issue. It has already happened. So basically here what happens is it is an obstacle that has happened, and it is impacting, it is having a negative impact on the body, on the project execution. For an example, it could be lack of accountability, it could be inadequate risk management, inadequate skills. This risk has already happened, and it can arise also in future as well. This risk has already happened, and as it can be arrived in future as well, and that is what the issue in the project management is.
So, Honey, in any project, we have more than close to 2,000 different risks.
2000. Come back.
Different risks. In any project, we have close to 2,000 different risks, more than 2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so we cannot include each and every risk, otherwise it's next to impossible, because risk always come with cost. Okay, I forget to ask you, what is mitigation and a contingency plan?
Yeah. So mitigation plans are basically made to avoid the risk from happening. It is basically we make a plan just to make sure that no risk happens, and it can be avoided. Whereas a contingency plan is nothing but the plan B, and it is basically created to make sure that we recover from the risk that has been impacted, right? So all the high requirement risk have the contingency plan, and we need to make sure that these plans are uploaded on the SharePoint or the Confluence page, and and can be updated on the Jira where these risks are created. And we already have a contingency plan, which is the plan B for these foreseen risks.
Give me any example if you can for mitigation and a contingency. Given risk, and then okay, this will be the mitigation plan, this will be the contingency.
So for an example, we know that this is a short circuit that can happen in future. So this wire is not working properly, or it's torn. So now it can happen in future. But here there is short circuit which has already happened with the faulty wire. So that is so we'll have a mitigation plan where we know that this wire has to be repaired, so this will be taken care as a mitigation plan. But now when the wire has been faulty and there is a short circuit, what has happened? Now we will have to call the say for an example, we'll have to call the technician, right? So we'll have to constantly ask why this risk has happened, in order to make sure that the mitigation plan is created.
Okay, true. Okay, the next one is with respect to root cause analysis.
Yeah.
So would you like to share any tool which we use as a root cause analysis?
So one major tool that we use is the 5 why analysis, where we constantly ask why has it happened. That will help us to identify the root cause of the problem. For an example, they will understand, like we can constantly asking, we can find the chain of the problem. We can find the relationship, why this has happened, and why and how we can improve it. Uh, for an example, I ran through a traffic signal and the police has caught me. Now you will ask, why did you run and cross through the traffic signal? You might have your own problem, like you got late to work. Now why you got late to work? Now you have to ask, why did you get late to work? Because the alarm did not work. Why the alarm did not work? Basically the alarm battery was exhausted. Now the other thing is, why did the alarm battery got exhausted? Here we will identify the problem, which is the root cause, that we basically forgot to change the battery. There is another one good example which says that there is a puddle of water on the floor. So you have to understand why there is a puddle of water. There could be a pipe that is leaking. So now why the pipe is leaking, you have to constantly ask yourself, and then we'll get to know that what is the root cause for that problem. So the 5 why analysis is basically one of the major tool in finding the RCA. And the second, which is the most important goal for the RCA, is to understand and fix the problem, and so that this problem does not occur repeatedly.
Okay, so that's why we have now modified this 5Y with 5Y and 1H. How?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I think, which you just mentioned, but now we call it 5Y and 1H. How part? Okay, and you use it in your team? You have used recently with your team, and if you want to share some experience where you have used it.
So there was an impediment which happened where the third party server was not working properly, and that led to a delivery in the execution. We asked, why is it not working, and why did not we took this into account in the risk impact assessment that we do in the start of the project. So where we understood that we were not given the user manual for which for an example, there was an impediment where the third party server was not working, and that impacted in the execution of a project. So we had to ask the team member, why didn't they identify it in the starting? Now they did not identify in the starting because that was not mentioned in the risk assessment plan. So now, why was it not added in the risk assessment plan? Because it was not a part of the user requirement or the user manual in the starting. Now, why was it not part of user manual? We had to ask questions. Then we got to know that the requirements was not complete, and it was not basically the team did not ask question to the product owner for the full requirement, which led to such a delay in the execution. So we basically flagged this issue. It was a risk, and we used to flag this issue every time to the customer in the start of the sprint, just to make sure that the customer is aware and the other stakeholders are aware about it. And we used to make sure that we take additional efforts in the starting of the sprint, just to make sure if we face this risk again, we have the right point of contact to resolve this issue.
Great. Okay, I think we have covered all the questions for today, Sunny. Yeah, so that's great. So thank you, Annie, and I'm hoping that this will not be our last session. We will have more sessions with you in future, that's for sure. So yes, if you want to conclude something before we close, Honey, you want to share anything?
Thank you, Sunan. Thank you so much for being helpful in this journey. I've learned a lot through Career Talk, and I will make sure that I will try giving my best to the community, and try learning and exploring, as Scrum or Agile is vast, and we need to constantly upgrade ourselves. And thank you so much, Sunan, for having me on this platform.
Great, thanks, Honey. Thanks a lot. Okay, so yes, friends, we are just coming into our session, and if you like, don't forget to like this session. Okay, it's a really a wonderful. All of our guests came and they shared their valuable insight, which is, I think, no one is doing that. So at least let's appreciate everyone and give a big thumbs up. So thanks, Sunny, and see you in our next session very soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Sunan.